Welcome to the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I'm Coach Lisa Callahan, a recovered emotional eater. I ended decades of self-inflicted struggles with food through taking a journey of self-discovery, which revealed the secrets of what was going on underneath the food. Throughout this podcast, we'll explore topics that are rarely talked about, like low self-esteem, lack of confidence, people-pleasing, and decades of self-sabotaging behaviors. Rather than just focusing on the food, we'll dive deeper into aspects of who you are as a person and how you ended up relying on food for comfort to begin with. My mission is simple: to empower women to regain their confidence and prioritize self-love, regardless of the number on the scale. Discover what you've really been craving, and trust me, it's not about the food. This podcast is based on insights shared from the Women's Emotional Eating Community Support Group on Facebook, so be sure to check out the show notes for the link to the group and a complimentary gift just for you. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hey, welcome to another fun and insightful episode of the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. The topic today is how to stop eating snacks to soothe yourself from stress. Today is going to be a really special guest is coming on with us today. Her name is Sasha, and we're going to be sharing the revelations that she had as she recovered from emotional eating. Hi, Sasha. Welcome to the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. So we're going to go through a little bit of the history of what it's been like coming through this journey, because like a lot of the things that the people who are listening struggle with is stress eating. And some of the things when you're taking that food and you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, I could just eat this food now instead of like dealing with all the stress. I know that that is something that you have really, really mastered as you've come through this journey. So can you kind of take us back a little bit to like, what would a typical day have looked like for you before you came in through this journey and crushed your food thing? Like, what were you struggling with?
Well, I was struggling with being triggered a lot by people around me, situations that are happening, kids having little meltdowns and screamings. And to soothe myself, I would sit and eat. I will just eat everything random just to calm down and reduce the triggers and reduce my reactions towards outside things that were happening.
Yeah, me too. I used to, convince myself that like this cookie was gonna like change everything in my life, or that because I was eating that cookie, that like I could deal with things more efficiently. Didn't ever really end up working out that way. How about for you? Like, did it ever work out the way that you thought it was going to when you were telling yourself that this,
No,
snack?
that cookie or whatever I was eating was like calming me down for a few seconds, few minutes, and then later I was feeling much worse
Yeah.
after that.
Yeah, and it like escalates things, right? So then it's like suddenly it's not only like the kids making the noise, it's like now there's noise in your head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What kind of noise came into your head? Because I know for me, like when I was in that space and I was just like, okay, I need these snacks, I need this food. Like for me at first, I thought that it was gonna calm me down, like you said, but then like later on, the real noise started in my head. Did that happen for you too?
Yeah, I was thinking that things would calm me down what I'm eating, and it didn't. It was just after I was eating, then I was feeling angry and sad, and why am I doing this to myself? Why am I hurting myself? What is wrong with me? Like, why? I had all these questions, like I couldn't understand why am I hurting myself that much with food.
And when you
And
say that, do you think that you knew, like, do you think that you knew that you were hurting yourself, or was it really like physical hurt? Like, were you like, 'cause sometimes I would get nauseous, like my heart would race because I had like lethal doses of sugar in my body.
I realized that my eating patterns were connected with my feelings, like how when I was feeling something, like I was scared about something happening, I was angry, um, I was sad. It was connected with my emotions, and every time I felt something, I was like even excited about something, I was eating.
Yeah, right. 'Cause I honestly I felt that way too. And then I would also use things like I feel like I would like use them. Like let's say for example, because I was like a room mom, for my kids' school. So like I would like be the first one to raise my hand, like I'm here, I'll help everybody. And then I kind of like leave that space, and then I would give myself like reasons to be nervous about something. Because
Hmm.
I'd be like, oh my gosh, like how am I gonna, okay, now I gotta make a list. Now I gotta go shopping. Now I gotta make sure that I delegate things correctly. And so like I would kind of make myself nervous with some of the things that I was even choosing to do. So
Yeah,
I think,
sometimes I was doing that, like setting myself up so I can actually do it subconsciously, I guess.
yeah, and I know if it's okay that I share this, that you like to bake, right? So like
Yeah.
you're really good at baking, and it's like before, like, and I used to do this myself. Like I would commit to, let's say, making a birthday cake. I'm like, I'll make the cake, and I like you did like cake decorations, but I swear I would spend like half the time. Oh, I have to taste the frosting. I have to taste the batter. I have to, and did you do stuff like that as well? Like
Yes, yes. And I was also like over baking for some occasions. I was over baking so I could actually eat after for days leftovers that I had.
yeah, so it was like you were because you were even saying about like how sometimes things like if you were excited about something or like so it didn't really matter, right? It was like there were so many entryways for you to get to this food, and there was a lot of like setups for that. So like let's say someone's birthday was coming up. I know I did this, and I did all those like fancy cakes like you do, where you do the piping and the frosting and the different colors, and like I'd have to taste this and I'd have to taste that, and sometimes I would actually convince myself that like I had to stay up all night to make this cake for my 3-year-old's birthday party, and then I was exhausted, so then I needed the food to keep me up. And so does that sound like something that you were struggling?
Yes, yes. Many times I was eating when I was tired, especially after having kids and they were not sleeping well, and I was awake most of the night, and then I was like eating. I had a feeling like I have to eat to stay awake.
Yeah, but then at the same time it's like and I did this as well, where it was like if you're tired, it's like that would be a great time to like rest and take a nap, maybe like take a pause. But in my mind, and it sounds like in yours as well, that like that exhaustion was the very same thing that then it's like you said to yourself, oh, I have to eat this so that now I'm not exhausted. But then it was the same thing that was exhausting you. So it was almost like you were chasing your own tail.
Yeah, it was like a circle, and it was like excuses over excuses, like I will eat now because I'm tired. I will eat because, like kids are screaming. I will eat, it was just I was finding excuses why I can eat.
Yeah. And how long would you say? Because I know going back into like your history, knowing you, like you were an athlete as a younger
Yeah.
gal. You played ball and you did like so that like how long would you say that like this food thing, you know, that you were experiencing this type of
Well, I would say it really
mismatch?
escalated after having kids, but I can see it like 10 years before that, like happening. Not so much, but it was there. Now, even when I was a kid, but I didn't realize that I could see the situations and patterns that there was a food thing happening. Like I don't know. There were times that we didn't have much when I was a kid. So when there was a paycheck, and then I don't know, mom buys a big ice cream. It was like you eat today because you don't know will you have it tomorrow, and then you eat a whole pack of ice cream, like huge thing, and so yeah. So it was pretty much since I was young, but I didn't realize it then.
so much for sharing that because I really do feel like a lot of our listeners have similar situations, and you kind of go through these parts where like you didn't realize that that was creating perhaps like a feeling inside that was being led towards a pattern and habit that was going to come out later. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah, that's really cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. So when you started to realize that this was like really, taking you away from your happiness, even though it felt like parts of it were exciting and parts of it were calming for you and all that stuff. And I experienced that 100% as well. What were some of the things that you did try like to fix it in the past? Like, what did you try?
Well, for me, it was always like I was always stuck in the circle of binge eating and starving myself. So I didn't look for solutions inside me. I was looking for solutions mostly to fix my weight because of the binging. So I realized that when was the point I realized that it's connected with my emotions and it's escalating and I was eating more and more until I was feeling nauseous, then I realized that I want help. And
Yeah.
then I started looking for help and some other solutions.
Yeah. And just if it's okay, and I don't even know if I know the answer to this, just for like for emotions, had you ever like just gone to therapy, like regular therapy?
No, no,
No.
never. I never. No.
See, for me, I actually did for like I thought that the food thing and the like emotions were two separate things. I actually went to therapy for emotions. And then I went to the diets for the food thing. And it wasn't until I took a journey of self-discovery, and it was a good 3 years into it, that I recognized that the very same things that I was doing, like with my emotions, and how sometimes I could like get myself to feel sad or to feel lonely or to feel FOMO, like I missed out on something or rejected in some way, or resenting some decision that maybe I made or someone else made or whatever. Like I thought that that was all stuff that like I had to fix within myself. But then it wasn't until like 3 years later, after I took a journey of self-discovery and was starting to recognize things that I didn't know before, that I looked at the food and was like, oh my gosh, I'm using the food. It's the same exact thing. And I didn't realize that before. So it's cool that you had some insights to recognize within you that you're like, okay, hang on a minute. My emotions in this food thing are like somewhere connected. So that is really cool. So when you started to recognize that part and you started to like look, and then we found each other, what was your initial thoughts about what we do, like self-discovery? Like, had you ever even heard of it before? Was it all new to you?
It was totally new to me. I had no idea what you're gonna do and how it's gonna look like. I just I took a leap of faith and I was ready to do something new that I thought might help me. So I had
Yeah.
no idea what it's gonna look like.
Yeah. Like just from that fearful place, were you afraid of anything? Like when we first started, did you have any thoughts of like, uh-oh, like what's this going to be like? or
Oh
or
yeah, I was totally scared and nervous, and I was like, okay, well, what is this? How it's gonna work? I mean, I had my doubts too, of course, but I trusted in process, and I just dived in,
so
and it started working pretty fast.
Yeah, so Crush That Food Thing self-discovery system is basically it's a journey, right? So it's interesting because it's meant to be done within about a year. Like we work with our students for a year. When you had first come in, I think it was 6 months, but now we give a year of support. But what I kind of remember is that you went through our learning hub, which is about 100 lessons long. You went through it pretty fast, if I recall. What was that about?
Yeah, I I wanted to learn about words that we were using on coaching calls and what they mean, and I wanted to understand it. So when we were on coaching calls and you were coaching someone else and you were talking about some things, I wanted to understand what is all about. And I was curious. I just wanted to see and learn. Yeah.
Awesome. And the thing about it though is that, was it enough for you just to like learn the lessons and to learn the language and the like, was it enough for you just to learn the
No,
concepts?
no, it was not enough. And I remember I was listening to lessons, and I was listening to the lessons like a few times in a row. Like I was listening it and it finished. I was listening it again and again. Like I was just spinning them around. But no, I coaching was what made the difference.
Yeah.
Coaching and talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, because and this is just an interesting thing that I think that a lot of people think is that you can just like know things, meaning like a lot of times people talk about like having the tools, and having the tools is absolutely not enough. So while I love that people are listening to this podcast, it's like absolutely phenomenal. And yet at the same time, unless you understand like what's at the roots and like what it is that you're having to like use the tools for, then it's like you can have a lot of the information, and yet at the same time, there could still be parts of you that might have you standing in your own way. Do you ever feel like you were kind of standing in your own way of progressing here?
There were some times like I think like a few months in, I had a little like a I would say setback that I think it was like a partially resistance probably that I passed it you know, like I had that resistance, but I went over it, and I started using the tools more, and I was aware of things what I'm doing, and I was starting to understand why am I resisting and what's going on, and I continue my journey and learning.
What would you say, like, so the topic today really is how to stop using snacks to soothe yourself from stress. So, what would you say is like one of the most significant things that you feel like has changed? Like, so now what are we, 18 months, 2 years? Where did you begin?
2 months, 2 years, sorry, 2 years exactly.
2 years
2 years.
exactly.
Yeah.
And within the first, let's say, month, what was some of the things that you started to shift, right? Because you're 2 years now into this process. But in that first month, like what do you think was some of the things that started to change in your mind that gave you the ability to to pause and not use snacks, and also to think about stress in a different way? Like, because now you don't think about things that you thought were stressful before. They're no longer stressful now.
I realized and I learned that I can choose how I'm going to respond in some situations and what other people are saying or doing, that I don't have to react.
Mhm. So you've now learned how to be proactive instead of reactive. Would that be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how has this, like, let's just say if we had to take like a typical day for you 2 years ago and now a typical day for you now, like what is one of the most significant things that you feel is different? Like, can you take us through just like a little bit of your past day and today? Is there?
Well, let's say food wise, in the past, like in the afternoon, the moment like the time of the ending of the school day was coming, I already started eating. The moment my kids stepped in the house, it was escalating and it didn't stop until the evening. Like I remember I was putting kids to bed, and while I was putting kids to bed, I would eat like 1 or 2 boxes of Pringles each evening while I was putting them to sleep.
Yep. Yep. Mine was
Yeah.
Cheetos, like, but they were, but I convinced myself that I was doing better because they were the healthy Cheetos from Whole Foods. So they were the crunchy Cheetos. They're literally the same thing, but the
Yeah.
package looked different than the Cheetos
Mhm.
because, yeah, I got them from
Yeah.
Whole Foods. So therefore, they must be healthy, right? No. But let's also be clear, just like I just want to give our listeners just an insight. So, I mean, right now the kids are only like kindergarten and second
Second grade.
second grade. Yeah. So these are still little kids. Yeah. So that's and so like meaning, let's say even in that space, right? So now like there's more school and more things. And so it's not like it's like the stress of like life itself. There's more activities, there's baseball, there's school stuff, there's
Yeah.
homework, like the life itself hasn't shifted. What has shifted for you, Sasha? Like what's
I learned to take a pause, and I learned to make choices. I learned that I can choose what I'm gonna think and how I'm gonna feel and what I'm gonna do. So I take a pause, and like I said, I respond and not react.
Yeah. So you'd say that that has been some like most of the biggest thing that has changed is being able to take that we call it the silent space.
Yeah.
So has that influenced others? Like meaning like if before like you were reacting and you were getting escalated and then that made you feel stressed, did that also cause like stress on the family, on the kids, on the
Yeah, of course. When I was reacting, everyone started reacting even more, and it was a chaos. Yeah, the more I stay calm and situations, I the more I de-escalate the drama, the calmer situation is. Like, yeah, and my relationship with my husband and my kids and some other family members improved a lot in the last 2 years.
yeah, yeah, I definitely know that. Because before, like if you think about it, if you're all like if the kids are, being kids, and then because of that, like your response to that, your reaction is like to be stressed and escalate that drama. Then if you were eating before and then you feel so stressed and then calming yourself down with the food, like that could have turned into a, you know what, everybody, let's just calm down. Let's put on a movie and let's grab the snacks. And then before you know it, you're all sitting on the couch all afternoon doing nothing.
Yeah,
All of you are eating, right? But
yeah,
now, as you can, I can honestly remember being in coaching calls where, there was just like, you felt like it was like, well, the kids won't go to bed and they won't do this and they won't do that. And now I haven't, heard anything about that in well over a year. And I think that you have, you know, everything seems more calm and peaceful
yeah,
and organized, and it feels happy, like connected for everybody really. So
yeah,
this is like a ripple effect.
yes.
That's amazing. So now let's just talk just a little bit more about the fact that you had all of this stress before. You were eating, you were from your own mindset, like overweight, it didn't feel healthy for you. You felt lethargic and tired and exhausted and stressed and all that stuff. So now I kind of want to like just introduce um, the concept of like being able to like have that proactivity in your life. And um, what has changed with your energy level, and like what have you now decided to like try in your life, like new things that have come to you as far as even your physical well-being? Like before you said, oh, I want energy from food. Now where's your energy level? Where are you at now?
Well, recently I decided that I want to try something new and exciting and challenge myself. And at some moment in my life, as I think I really crave that, because I was an athlete for almost 25 years, and then for 10 years I was practically sitting on the couch. So I decided to start running, and it was amazing. It's amazing. It's just how much is affecting me, and I feel more confident, and I can see that I can do hard things that I never thought in my life I would be doing. So it's great.
Yeah, it is actually fantastic. And I used to be an athletic coach, and I was also a marathon runner and everything. So I don't coach anymore. But when Sasha came to me and she said, you know, Lisa, I feel like I want something now for me. Like instead of everybody else being in front of her and having her then have to be reactive to all of their stuff, she's like, no, you know what? I want to be proactive. I want to actually like do something for me. I want like something that I can put on my own oxygen mask first, have that time for myself. So that way, then everything else feels so nice and smooth. And so she actually came to me and she said, what just start running? Like, what would I do? And like really, really beginner running. Like, and because I was an athletic coach, I helped her. And one day she did a 5K, and then she did a 10K. And then she came to me and said, I want to run a half marathon. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? And so how many half marathons have you done now, Sasha?
Until now, 2 official ones and 3 more training.
Yeah. And you are now training for your first.
Marathon.
Exciting.
Yes.
So exciting. And this has only been in how long? Like, from the first time you said, Lisa, I would like to start running, can you help me, to this day? How long has this been?
So idea came last year in November, and in November I started walking, and December I started running for the first time.
And so we're less than a year.
Yeah, under the
Less
year.
than a year with a person who has never run before, started walking, and now in less than a year, you have done 2 half marathons and are now training for a marathon, which is in November, consequently,
In
right?
November, exactly. Yeah.
So within 1 year, you have been able to take your whole entire like energy system and just decisions. Like I know before I started like running myself, I remember somebody invited me to do like a 5K, and I'm like, 5K, man, how many miles is that? 3. Okay. Oh, I don't know if I can do that. And it's
Mm.
really interesting because when you start something like this journey, sometimes you can hold yourself back. Like, let's say, for example, if you hadn't been in self-discovery, if you hadn't understood, if like stress was like your main thing, if your main thing that you told yourself, I have to eat to calm myself down because life is so stressful. Like if you kept telling yourself that and you kept going for the snacks and doing the things, where do you think you'd be right now instead of where you're at? Like if you had not taken this journey, it's just 2 years. Where do you think
Oh, I would be eating all day, probably being super overweight, on feeling depressed and unhealthy and sad.
and we never talk about weight in Crush That Food Thing self-discovery system.
Yeah.
We don't share it. We don't do weigh-ins. We don't do anything. We don't talk about food. We don't talk about dieting. We don't give you a meal plan. We give you none of that because all that stuff you already know. Yet you have gained such a new perspective on yourself, on life, on your family, on relationships, on how to communicate, on how to connect with yourself, on how to put on your oxygen mask. So with having this life gain, where do you feel like you're at as far as weight loss? What's the difference now? Like,
You mean how much I lost?
yeah.
Well, I lost about 70 pounds
Wow.
and I gained my life
Yeah.
before I lost the weight. The moment I started liking and loving myself more, the weight just came off as a bonus. That was not focus. I was doing other things and I was just losing weight. without dieting, without thinking, what am I eating? How much am I eating? I was eating. If I wanted to eat a cookie, I ate a cookie. I bake a cake. I eat a cake. It doesn't matter. But I'm not hurting myself anymore with food.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I find it to be extremely inspirational. I love that you have been able to shift away from stress eating, using things to tell yourself you're stressed, whether it be sad or happy or disappointed or excited or whatever, like, food. And now it is Sasha, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you so much. We will close off this episode of the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. In the show notes, again, for this next week, we're still going to be including the Happy Thoughts Bootcamp, which was a bootcamp that we ran about 2 weeks ago. Super fun, extremely informative, comes with a 25-page Happy Thoughts playbook, which you will want to do again and again and again. As always, if you're looking for a bite-sized opportunity to explore self-discovery, I will always recommend the Mindset Makeover. We have other ways to work with us now. If you want to look in the show notes, there's a lot of different opportunities in there. And Sasha, would you recommend Crush That Food Thing self-discovery system to anyone?
I would recommend it to everyone. It's not about the food. It's not about the food at all. It's about how you feel about yourself and loving yourself and treating yourself with kindness and love.
It absolutely is. Thank you so much for everything and for sharing with us. And we will see you all next time. Bye for now. All right, my beautiful friend, that brings us to the end of another episode from the Crush Cravings with Confidence podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening today and took something from our conversation that you are going to put into immediate action. I love spending time with you and would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with at least one friend today who you think might be struggling too. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any other amazing topics. And please do leave me a review. It would mean the world to me. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.